Okay, so Rampage. Yeah, basically the trailers tell the movie in this one. There's not too much of the way to build on in this. Basically, there's like this weird disclaimer at the beginning about how genetic testing was originally being used to help fight diseases, but for some reason it became a weapon of mass destruction. Don't know why, but okay. Uh, it turns out that in space they were doing these genetic experiments and they tested it on a rat, and the rat went crazy and attacked everything. And as the one remaining scientist on the space station tried to escape, the pod exploded and all the canisters fell to Earth. One in the San Diego Zoo, effectively. One in the Florida Everglades, and one in Yellowstone National Park. The Rock plays Davis Okoye, who is the caretaker at the San Diego Zoo of an albino gorilla named George. Excuse me. George knows sign language and is kind of the leader of the gorillas at the zoo. In Yellowstone, a wolf happens across it, and we get that. And of course, an alligator happens across the other canister, and that's where we get the other one. George is the gorilla, Ralph is the wolf, and Lizzie is the alligator, because lizard. Anyway, turns out these were developed by a company called, the canisters were developed by a company called Energine, run by two siblings named the Windens, and they're very boring villains. You could tell like the actors were trying to punch this up a little bit, but the villains were kind of dull. And admittedly, I had some problems with this because I thought the villains were pretty weak. I mean, the one noteworthy fact is the program is called Program Rampage, and the villains actually have a standing Rampage arcade machine in their office. But the idea is they want to weaponize DNA to sell on the black market. I don't understand. Like, how do you go from trying to fight diseases to creating your own kaiju? I don't see how that leap was necessarily made. Anyway, George obviously also gets exposed to this. He grows big. He's acting more aggressive. He actually breaks free from his pen and kills a grizzly bear. And this attracts the attention of Dr. Kim Caldwell. That's Naomi Harris's character. And she used to work at Energine. She was trying to find a cure for her brother's cancer, but they kept basically perverting her research, for lack of a better term. So she tried to get them back. She got fired, and then she got caught stealing files and had to serve a term in prison, basically. George eventually breaks free. He gets taken down by Department of Homeland Security, the agent that Jeffrey D. Morgan plays, and that. Energine also has like their own little commando corps played by Joe Manganiello, Alcide from True Blood, and he gets killed very early on by Ralph, the wolf. And eventually it turns out Energine has this like homing beacon, a low level radio frequency that they can use to signal the animals to bring them to Chicago because, again, money. It sounds like I'm bagging on this movie. I'm really not. I mean, for the most part, the action sequences were really fun, especially when they finally get to Chicago and the animals are actually attacking the city, you know, like the video game Rampage. The characters, for the most part, are good, except for the villains. You can tell the actors are trying to ham it up a little bit and have some fun, but the villains are pretty just cartoonishly bland. Like, they're not wacky enough to be memorable. I know at one point they mentioned their names, but I think the girl Winden is named Claire. And the other one is named something else. I don't remember. So that does not help. I don't remember the name of Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character. I don't remember the name of a bunch of other characters, and that does not help. But it also turns out that Davis, The Rock's character, is also a former soldier, because of course he's also a former soldier. He specialized as a member of an anti-poaching force for the UN. And that's how he met George. He actually rescued him from poachers in Africa. And it's led to Davis being very alienated from people, and kind of throughout the course of this, he doesn't really change at all, actually. He and George have a good rapport with each other. They sign to each other. They have some jokes. George pretends to be sincere and will then flip Davis off. And then, they will actually argue to each other. And so that stuff's pretty good. The Rock actually plays it pretty straight in this. He doesn't really get to ham it up. But you can tell there's definitely some fun with this. Like I said, when the action sequences are happening, it's very fun. When the action sequences are not happening and we're trying to do character building, it kind of falls a little flat. Anyway, like I said, there's the big battle in Chicago. Ralph and George show up at the same time. Lizzie shows up shortly thereafter. They're trying to get to the building for Energyne. As this is happening, it turns out Energyne has also developed this not quite antidote, but they've developed something that can slow the growth rate of the animals and temper them down a little bit, because their aggression is so they're not as aggressive. And Caldwell and Davis basically break into the building to try to get some of it. They get taken hostage. They get taken up to the roof of the building. As this is happening, George gets to the top and starts thrashing with the getaway copter. The brother starts to get away, and he bumps into the Jeffrey Dean Morgan character, who basically says, look, if you give me your evidence, I'll let you go scot-free. And he says, okay, and he does all that. He turns, he leaves, and he's immediately like squashed by this falling piece of debris. That's just... yeah, I mean, that's the kind of movie this is. The villain thinks he's going to get away scot-free, only to be killed at the last possible second. The girl, Wyndon, again, I think her name was Claire, gets tricked into holding a vial of the antidote and gets eaten by George. And this does, for lack of a better term, cure him, and they are fighting on time, and then they use George to fight Ralph and Lizzie. However, Lizzie actually kills Ralph first before anything happens, rips off Ralph's head. It's then down to George and Lizzie. They fight. George actually gets impaled on a piece of rebar. Davis tries to... first he throws a grenade into one of Lizzie's gills. It doesn't work. He then blasts Lizzie with a full artillery from a downed helicopter. It doesn't work. And eventually George impales Lizzie through the head and finally kills her. Or him, I'm not entirely sure. And then George kind of dies, but then it turns out, nope, George is just kind of playing another joke. And that's how the film ends. So yeah, I did sum everything up right there. Like I said, for the most part, the action sequences were really well done. That part was fun. The interactions between The Rock and however they did the CGI gorilla, that worked really well. I'd say on the downside, again, the villains were just so bland. The villains are not good in this. I think I've hammered that home. Caldwell is okay, but only when she's with The Rock. Every other time, it's just, again, I could care less about her. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is actually really good in his role. He plays this kind of southern federal agent who clashes initially with them, but more or less comes along for the ride and just says, no, I'm going to stick with you. They save his life because they were flying in a plane and the plane crashed, and like I said, Davis basically saved the guy's life, so he's sort of indebted to them. And yeah, the good guys are pretty decent. The fight scenes are really good. The effects are overall pretty good. The villains are not. So, yeah. I am going to give Rampage a B. Oh, and by the way, the cats that keep showing up in the pictures I'm using, yeah, I got a couple of copyright claims I had to deal with, so I figured at least if I put a picture of my cat into it, it counts as being transformative, and maybe I won't get flagged again. So that's why she's popping up in all these shots you see.
On an all-new Blue,
Just give him what he wants.
there's a killer loose. The trap is set. It's a dangerous job. When you're the bait.
Andy, take it down.
All new NYPD Blue. ABC Tuesday. Viewer discretion advised.
Okay, trailer time. And we actually have new trailers this time. I mean, mostly new trailers. We do have a couple of repeats, but I'll get to them. First off is Ralph Breaks the Internet, a.k.a. Wreck-It Ralph 2. Then we have Mission Impossible Fallout. Then we have Adrift, which is about a couple, they're sailing from, I think it's Australia to Hawaii, or California, somewhere in there. Or is it Tahiti to California? But they're sailing and they run into a cyclone, and they wind up basically adrift at sea. And the guy who's the more experienced sailor is badly injured, and so it falls onto the woman, Shailene Woodley, to navigate her way to safety in Hawaii. After that, we had Venom again. Then we had Skyscraper, the movie where The Rock is the war veteran. It's basically The Rock's version of the Towering Inferno / Die Hard. And then we had Deadpool 2 again, and then Ocean's 8. Alright, so yeah. Hopefully next week I can get those Marvel updates, those Marvel Netflix sketch-ups out. Next video after this is going to be the Astro City Random Trade Review. I've got everything shot for that. And yes, I did shoot that the same day I'm shooting this. After that, the next movie is going to be Super Troopers 2. So, see you all next time. Hey guys, is there a movie you want me to tackle? If it's some stinker like Baywatch or the Emoji Movie or something else? Check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time for Cat Productions. See how you can make that happen.